Hello, welcome to West Ham Confidential on Revelator Alf. So just got back from the London Stadium where West Ham were playing Bournemouth in the second league game of the season. We're all optimistic before the game. 2-1, 3-1 victory, that kind of thing. Thought it would be a close match or close scoring match. And indeed it was. 2-1, however, to Bournemouth. Yes, we lost. Very disappointing. Not only in the result, but also in the manner of the performance, you might say. A quick run down of the starting lineup. Fabianski in goal, played really well overall. We had Balbuena and Ogbonna in the centre of defence, Masuaku on the left. Zabaleta came in for Fredericks on the right-hand side, had a really good game, I thought. Noble Wilshire in the middle, Anderson on the left, and we had Snodgrass on the right, and Arnautovic and Hernandez up front as a pair. All well and dandy, quite a 4-4-2, quite offensive attacking setup with the personnel there, so we should have done quite well. So, start the game, and Bournemouth, basically dominated the first 5 minutes. They had all the possession, putting some good passes and finding lots of space, until we eventually got our foot on the board and came into the match, and then we largely dominated thereafter until about 20 minutes, 25 minutes, we were ordered a penalty. Now, some around me were saying that it wasn't a penalty or a bit dubious. I thought it was, but in all fairness, I did have, quite a distant view of it. So it'd be good to see the replay of that. But anyway, interestingly, Arnautovic stepped up instead of Noble to take the penalty and calmly slotted it away. Now, there's a bit of controversy over the penalty, whether it should be awarded or not, and the referees seem to not be quite sure. He went to consult with his linesman, and they eventually gave the penalty. He's also given away some strange decisions, a lot of free kicks that we thought should have been given. Also, he was giving Bournemouth some free kicks we didn't think they were quite right either. But you know what, the balance of play, 6 to 1, half a dozen of the other. After that, West Ham kind of dominated, really good passages of play, but the last 5 minutes, 6 minutes of the first half, Bournemouth really came into it and had some really decent chances. And throughout the first half, they were always kind of they were always on the counter-attack. They looked threatening, I would say, and we looked vulnerable. If it wasn't for Fabianski again, who I thought had a great game, commanded his area really well, made some really decent saves, we could have been, a couple of goals down in the first half. So we were kind of lucky to go in 1-0 up, I thought, although we had the better of the first half. Problems, we've got Masuaku. Didn't really want to be there. He had his head down most of the first half. He's obviously under orders not to go too far forward, but him and Anderson weren't linking up well. Anderson didn't look great either. He had a couple of nice touches, a couple of runs here and there, but overall just wasn't effective enough. I'm not going to talk about the money or what he costs and everything, but he's obviously just not up to speed yet. And Masuaku just didn't like to be there either. He's a left midfielder. He's a left winger. He's just not defensive at all. Getting into the defence, the first half, Ogbonna, Balbuena doing really well. I thought lots of good play, lots of good interceptions. Largely, a solid unit. The problem is with our defence is that our defensive midfield was giving Bournemouth lots of time and space on the ball, lots of time to run onto us, and that created the vulnerability in our defence. Teams know this now after Liverpool, certainly after last season, but against Liverpool, now Bournemouth. If we give them space and if their players can run at our defence at pace and quick transitions of play, then we are vulnerable and we start to panic a little bit, and that's exactly what happened. So second half started and Bournemouth started exactly the same as they finished the first half. They were quicker to the ball, more possession, they had more fight, more desire, and they troubled West Ham, and that's what happened. And then the first 20-25 minutes it was all Bournemouth really, and you know what, they scored 2 goals. It just showed that we just couldn't cope with them. And again, in midfield, we weren't really containing them and weren't really dominating the play. And also, we weren't, spreading the ball around quickly enough to trouble them. They were just sort of sitting back and just absorbing it, really. And we didn't look pressured enough. We weren't pressing them enough, and we weren't showing any sense of urgency to really, go after it, especially when we were 2-1 down. you know, we were trying, but it just wasn't working. Pellegrini reacted, you know, he took off Hernandez, Snodgrass and Noble, who by that time really should have gone off because he wasn't at the races. He was not keeping up with players, and I think he might have been a bit spent. Also, he was getting frustrated. He'd already been booked and possibly lucky not to get sent off a little bit later on. So on came Yarmolenko, who did quite really well in the right-hand side. Carlos Sanchez in the holding midfield role in place of Noble, you might say, and he did really well actually I thought. And who else came on? Oh yeah, Lucas Perez came on, and you know, he looked alright, but he didn't really have. He had a couple of good touches, but I wouldn't say nothing to write home about. So we still got a problem, you know, with our midfield commanding the game, making our defence look vulnerable, but also not really supplying the, you know, the front two or the front one or whatever it is you want to call it. So we're not a full unit yet. The players are still not up to speed. Anderson definitely is not up to speed, and you know, we threw this game away really. I'm not saying they didn't have desire, I'm not saying they didn't have passion and they were committed. Of course they did, and that was showing, and you could see the frustration on some of them. But you know, as soon as we were put under pressure, their heads went down a bit, they got a bit disorganised, they were disconnected. They didn't seem as if they knew what each other really needed and what each other wanted really. So they're not a unit yet, and that's a problem. You know, pre-season is one thing. Now you're in the nitty-gritty of the Premier League, and you know, we're just being found out, and that's the bare bones of it. You know, so I'm not angry. I'm very, very disappointed. I thought that, you know, we could come to this game at the London Stadium, first game in front of the home fans, and actually not necessarily put on a show, but put on a really decent performance and come away with a win. I thought it would be a tight game. I thought we'd narrowly win, but I thought we would win. You know, player for player, we got much better players than them. But actually, they were basic players, but they played their part really well. Eddie Howe's got them, you know, working as a unit and passing and moving, and that's what we weren't doing. We weren't passing and moving very well. So as soon as we completed one pass, then that pass wasn't being returned, or we weren't using, you know, weren't moving to, you know, get another pass or complete a pass. So it was kind of very bitty on our part, and you know, we were under the cosh a little bit in the second, well, certainly in the second half we were under the cosh. Then about 25-30 minutes when the substitutes were made, then we came back into it. And Arnautovic almost had a chance towards the end of the match and just fired over the bar. Could have levelled for us. We had a couple of crosses into the box from Zabaleta, but Anderson on the left hand side, he kept on checking back. He was, when we were looking for urgency to whip the ball in really quickly, it just wasn't coming in quickly enough. So I think somebody needs to put him aside and say, look, as soon as you get that ball, whip it in quickly, and that's what we need. So it was a little bit lackluster then. It was a little bit heads down. It was a little bit slow. But, you know, there are signs there that West Ham could come good within a couple of games. The problem is, in the next 4 or 5 games, you know, we've got Arsenal, Man United, Spurs, Chelsea. You know, we've got some massive games ahead of us. And we're also playing Wolves, who, you know, are looking quite good themselves. So, you know, it's going to be a tough few weeks for us, definitely. I mean, I think Pellegrini needs to look at his formation, and we need to go back to basics. I think on basis of what I've seen of Sanchez, although he didn't do a lot, he did it very well. And then he calmed everything down, and he's just playing a simple ball across field or forward in front of the back four, and it held it there. And I think that's what we need. I'm not saying change the flat back four. Possibly we might have to, but I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is we need somebody like that, Sanchez, sitting right in front of them to let, you know, calm everything down. Does Noble get dropped? Possibly. This is something for you to decide. Do you think Noble should get dropped after that? I still think it's a bit unfair, for us to overly criticise, but it just wasn't a great game for him, I don't think. And Wilshere in the centre, I think, whether Anderson doesn't really like it on the left, and maybe we should move him on to the right hand side. I don't know, but he just I would give him a rest myself, actually, and I would, if we can get Craswell back, definitely have him on the left back role. Put Masuaku on the left hand side. I would start Yarmolenko if he's fit. I think the reason he's not starting because he's not quite fit. And then, we've got to see whether Arnautovic and Hernandez is, it's great having them there. Hernandez had some decent chances in the first half, good passages played, good runs, and he played some good, decent football, I thought. So we got subbed, and it wasn't his fault, I don't think, to get subbed. Just wasn't get the service, and that's the problem we've got. So, whether we change that up again, maybe put 5 in midfield, 4 at the back, 5 in midfield, just 1 up front. I mean, maybe that's the way to go. Or whether we play like a 4-1-3-2, something like that. I don't know. But he's got to change it up a little bit. We've got to be solid at the back, building from the back, but also we've got to have more attacking options and more ability to get the ball wide, whip balls in quicker, speed up the play, speed it up a little bit. Anyway, lots of Pellegrini to talk about, lots of things for the fans to digest and go through. Anyway, I've got a bit of a headache after today. Lots of woes, lots of shouting, lots of head in hands and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, but hope to catch you on the next West Ham Confidential whenever that is, and hopefully we'll do better next time. Catch you later. Cheers.